The morning sunlight spilled across the marble floors of the Hawthorne mansion, a palace so large and silent that the sound of footsteps often echoed as if the walls themselves were listening. Billionaire Adrian Hawthorne sat alone at the long dining table, a cup of his morning tea steaming gently in front of him. Every morning for the last 7 years, the tea had been prepared by the maid, Alina, quiet, soft-spoken, and loyal to a fault. Today, though, something in the air felt different. Alina moved slower, her hands trembling as she arranged the silverware. Her eyes darted repeatedly toward the porcelain cup sitting in front of Adrian, as if she were waiting for something to happen, as if she feared something. Adrian didn't notice. His mind was elsewhere, on the multi-million-dollar merger he was signing that afternoon, on his fiancée, Nicole, who had not come home the previous night, and on his young son, Milo, who had been asleep before Adrian returned from work. He lifted the cup. Alina froze. The cup rose halfway to Adrian's lips. And then, "Don't drink tea," she screamed. Her voice shattered the usual morning calm like a brick through glass. Adrian jerked his head toward her, the cup trembling in his hand. "Alina, what the hell is wrong with you?" he snapped. She was pale, ghost-white, her chest rising and falling rapidly as tears welled at the corners of her eyes. "Please, please don't drink it," she begged, stepping closer though her legs shook violently. I saw something I need to explain." Adrian placed the cup back on the saucer, his heartbeat suddenly louder than his thoughts. He studied her. Alina had worked for him for years, never once raising her voice, never once overstepping boundaries. For her to scream. "What's going on?" he demanded. "Tell me clearly." But before Alina could answer, the dining hall door opened, and Nicole walked in perfect hair, perfect posture, perfect smile, wearing last night's glittering silver dress. "Why is she yelling?" Nicole asked, her expression shifting quickly to annoyance. "Adrian, what is this about?" Alina stepped back, trembling as Nicole's cold eyes narrowed on her. Adrian glanced between them, suspicion beginning to stir, ugly and unfamiliar. "Alina says there's something wrong with my tea," he said. Nicole scoffed. "Is this some kind of joke? She probably dropped the tea bag on the floor or put too much sugar. Adrian, we're running late." "It's poisoned," Alina whispered. Silence fell like a dead weight. Adrian blinked. Nicole froze. "What did you say?" Adrian asked, his voice low. Alina swallowed hard, her hands clasped together as if in prayer. "Sir, I think someone put something in your tea." Nicole laughed too loudly, her voice sharp. "Are you out of your mind? Adrian, fire her. This is insane." Adrian didn't look at Nicole. His eyes were fixed on Alina's face. The fear there was real. She wasn't shaking because she was lying. She was shaking because she was terrified. "How do you know?" he asked. Alina hesitated. "Because I saw it. I walked in earlier to start the breakfast service, but Nicole was already here. She was standing near the tea set, and she was holding a vial." Nicole slammed her hand on the table. "You little liar." Adrian's breath caught. He couldn't speak, didn't know what to believe. Nicole, his glamorous fiancée of 8 months, whom he had trusted despite the whispers, Alina, the quiet maid who had helped raise Milo after Adrian's wife died. "Alina," Adrian whispered, "look me in the eyes, are you sure?" Her voice broke. "I'm sure, sir, I swear on my life." Nicole's eyes flashed with something, panic or fury. Adrian couldn't tell. She reached for his hand. "Baby, don't listen to her," she said softly. "This girl has always been jealous. She knows after the wedding we won't need her anymore. This is all because she's desperate." But Adrian pulled his hand away. For the first time since he met Nicole, a tiny crack formed in the image he had created of her, the image she had carefully curated. "Alina," he said again slowly, "why would Nicole want to poison me?" Alina opened her mouth, but tears choked her voice. Nicole stepped forward, face reddening. "Enough!" "Adrian, I'm calling security." She reached for her phone, but Adrian's instincts, the same instincts that built an empire, finally kicked in. He grabbed her wrist. Hard. Nicole froze. "Why were you in the dining room before dawn?" he asked. She swallowed, her mask slipping for the briefest second. I couldn't sleep." "Alina," he said sharply, "show me exactly what you saw." Alina nodded, turned, and walked toward the counter where the tea tray was usually prepared. Adrian followed, his pulse pounding. "When I came in," she whispered, "Nicole was standing right here, leaning over the tea, and she had this small glass vial in her hand, clear liquid. She kept looking toward the hallway like she didn't want anyone to see." Nicole shook her head violently. "Lies, all of it." Adrian stared at her, really stared, searching her face for truth, but all he found was fear. "Alina," he asked quietly, "why didn't you come to me sooner?" "Because," her voice cracked again, "because I didn't know how to tell you that someone in your own home wanted to hurt you. I was scared you wouldn't believe me, and I didn't want to lose my job. I take care of Milo, he trusts me." The mention of his son pierced through Adrian like a blade. He stepped back, suddenly dizzy. If Alina was telling the truth, then Nicole, the woman he planned to marry, had just tried to poison him. And for what? Money, control, something worse. Adrian moved toward the teacup again, staring at the surface of the steaming liquid as if it held all the answers. His reflection in the tea was distorted, warping into something unfamiliar, a man blind to danger, blind to betrayal. "Alina," he whispered, "do you think she meant to kill me?" Nicole stepped forward, tears streaming down her face now, but were they real? "Adrian, please, you're believing a maid over me. I love you." But Adrian didn't respond, because something else caught his eye. A small, almost invisible residue clinging to the rim of the cup, a faint, milky smear that had not been there before. His blood ran cold. He wasn't a chemist, but he knew enough to understand when something shouldn't be there. He looked at Nicole, whose face had gone deathly pale. "Alina," he whispered, "get Milo, take him to your room and lock the door." Nicole's voice cracked. "Adrian." "Now," he snapped. Alina ran. Nicole stepped back, shaking her head, breathing fast, the image of a perfect fiancé collapsing like a fragile mask. "Adrian, listen to me," she whispered. "Whatever you think you know, it's not what it looks like." Adrian stared at her, rage and heartbreak building like a storm. "Then tell me," he said softly, dangerously. "What is it?" Nicole's lips parted. But before she could speak, security burst into the room, summoned automatically by the mansion's panic sensors that activated when raised voices were detected. And in that moment of chaos, Nicole made a choice. She ran. Straight out of the dining hall, down the corridor, her heels clattering like gunshots. "Stop her," Adrian shouted. Security sprinted after her, but she vanished around the corner. Adrian stood there, his heart pounding, his whole life spinning out of control. The untouched tea sat on the table, steaming gently. And in that silence, in that stillness, in that fractured moment, he knew one thing. Whatever truth Alina had almost revealed, whatever dark reason Nicole had tried to poison him, was going to destroy everything he thought he knew about his life. The mansion's hallways reverberated with the pounding footsteps of the security team chasing Nicole. Adrian stood frozen for a moment, staring at the doorway where she had disappeared. It felt as if the world had collapsed into a narrow tunnel, one where every second mattered, every breath cut deeper than the last. He turned toward the teacup again, that faint residue, that almost invisible smear. His throat tightened as the realization struck. If Alina hadn't screamed, he might already be lying lifeless on the cold marble floor. He grabbed the cup with a tissue and bagged it in a plastic evidence pouch from his home office, something he kept for business investigations. never imagining it would protect him inside his own home, his own fiancée, his future wife, the person he trusted with his son. He felt sick. When he walked toward the hallway, he heard Elena's frantic voice from upstairs. "Milo, sweetheart, come here, quickly, don't look back." His heart shattered. Milo. He rushed up the stairs 2 at a time. Elena stood outside her small bedroom, Milo clinging to her leg, half asleep and confused. "Daddy," Milo mumbled, rubbing his eyes. "Why are people running?" Adrian knelt, trying to steady his breathing. He pulled his son into his arms, holding him tightly, too tightly, but he didn't loosen his grip, not when the boy wrapped his little arms around his neck with complete trust. "Everything's okay," Adrian whispered, though his voice trembled. "I'm here." He motioned to Elena. "Lock the door, don't open it for anyone but me." Elena nodded and quickly led Milo inside. Adrian stepped back, inhaling sharply as the door clicked shut. Then he turned around and nearly collided with one of his guards. "Sir, she's gone." The words struck him harder than any bullet. "What do you mean gone?" Adrian growled. "She ran into the hallway, she couldn't have gotten far." The guard shook his head. "We followed her to the garage. She took your black Maybach and rammed the gate. She's off the property." Adrian felt the blood drain from his face. Nicole wasn't panicking. Nicole wasn't confused. Nicole was running because she knew exactly what she had done. "Find her," he said coldly. "Block all exits. Alert the authorities. But don't." His voice cracked for a moment. "Don't tell them anything yet. I'll handle that. Just bring her back." "Yes, sir." The guard left. Adrian leaned against the wall, gripping the railing for support. His breath shook. His life, everything he'd built, everything he trusted, was slipping through his fingers like sand. He retreated to his office and shut the door. The moment he sat at his desk, he pressed the intercom. "Elena, it's me. Keep Milo with you, don't come out." "Yes, sir," she responded, voice trembling. Adrian opened his laptop, pulled up the security footage from the dining hall. He fast-forwarded through the footage until he saw Nicole enter at 6:14 a.m. alone. She wasn't supposed to be awake until 8. She walked straight to the tea tray, pulled something from her purse. A tiny clear vial. His chest tightened. She unscrewed it, glanced around, then poured a small amount of the liquid into only one cup, his. She wiped the rim with a napkin. Checked the hallway again. Then placed the cup neatly where she knew he sat. There was no mistake. No misunderstanding. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't impulsive. It was planned. His fiancée was trying to kill him. He slumped back in his chair, running his hands over his face. What had he missed? What signs had he ignored? Why would she do this? He needed answers. The door opened without a knock. Elena stood there, her face pale, eyes fearful. "Sir, I know you said to stay inside, but there's something you need to know." Adrian straightened. "What is it?" Elena stepped forward, hands shaking. "I didn't tell you the full truth earlier. I was scared. I thought if I interfered I'd get hurt, or you wouldn't believe me." "Speak," Adrian said gently. "Sir, this wasn't the first time." His heart stopped. "What?" Elena swallowed hard. "This wasn't the first time Nicole put something in your food." Adrian shot to his feet. "Elena, what are you talking about?" She backed away slightly, but her voice grew more urgent, more desperate. "Sir, I saw her last month, and the month before that. She added something to your drinks, sometimes your water, sometimes your medicine." "Why the hell didn't you tell me?" "Because she threatened me," Elena cried, tears spilling down her cheeks. "One night she cornered me. She told me if I ever interfered, she would make sure I disappeared. She said she had more power over you than I could ever imagine." Adrian's hands clenched into fists. "Why would she poison me slowly? What does she gain?" Elena hesitated, eyes flicking to the floor. Sir, I overheard something. Nicole wasn't alone. She's been receiving calls from a man. Adrian froze. A man, he whispered. Yes, late at night. She talked about your accounts, your passwords, the inheritance transfers, your will. A sharp pain stabbed through Adrian's chest. My will. Elena nodded. She asked someone how long it takes for toxicology reports to detect certain compounds. And then, she asked something about how soon she could access your assets if you passed away suddenly. Adrian sank into his chair. The betrayal was no longer a suspicion. It was reality. Nicole had been planning this for months, slowly poisoning him, waiting until his health declined enough to be dismissed as natural causes. And there was someone else involved. Someone who knew his finances. Someone who wanted him dead. But Elena continued softly, there's more. Adrian looked up. What else? Elena's chin quivered. Sir, her calls weren't just about money. She said something else, something about Milo. The air left Adrian's lungs. What about my son? He whispered. She said, Elena's voice broke. She just needed to get rid of Adrian so she could take Milo to the rightful place, a place she kept calling Blackridge Estate. Adrian stared at her. His blood ran cold. Blackridge Estate was not a place he knew. But the name belonged to someone he knew far too well. A man he had once considered a friend. A man who had betrayed him years ago. A man who had vowed revenge. Jonathan Blackridge. Nicole wasn't working alone. She was a piece in someone else's game. And Adrian realized with horrifying clarity that he wasn't the only one in danger. Milo was too. A sudden pounding on the front door jolted them both. Bam, bam, bam. Followed by a voice that made Adrian's skin crawl. Adrian, the voice shouted, muffled but unmistakable. Open the door, we need to talk. Elena gasped. That voice, sir, that's the man Nicole talked to. Adrian's blood turned to ice. It was Jonathan Blackridge. Standing outside his home. Calling his name. As if this was all just the beginning, Adrian's heart pounded so loudly he could barely hear the rest of the world. Jonathan Blackridge, the one man he prayed he would never see again, was standing outside his home. The pounding on the front door grew harder, more urgent, like a predator demanding entry to its prey. Elena, Adrian whispered, stay upstairs, lock the door, don't make a sound. Elena nodded and rushed back up the stairs. Adrian took a deep breath and walked slowly toward the grand entrance. Every step echoed through the mansion like footsteps toward an execution. He reached the door. Jonathan pounded again. Adrian, I know you're in there. Open the damn door. Adrian unlocked it. The moment the door swung open, Jonathan Blackridge stepped inside like he owned the place. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a dark tailored coat, he smiled, a smile that never reached his eyes. Missing something? Jonathan asked. A chill ran down Adrian's spine. What did you do with Nicole? Jonathan shrugged casually. She came to me on her own. You should have chosen your fiancé more wisely. Adrian's jaw clenched. Where is she now? Safe, Jonathan said with a crooked grin. For now. Adrian stepped closer. What do you want from me? Oh, Adrian, Jonathan sighed dramatically. You always think everything is about your money. He leaned close. This is about payback. Adrian didn't blink. For what? Your business collapsed because of your own decisions. Jonathan's expression darkened. No, my business collapsed because you exposed me. You were laundering money, Adrian snapped. You ruined yourself. Jonathan chuckled, low and cold. And now I'm ruining you. Adrian's fists tightened. Nicole tried to poison me. You planned this together. Jonathan smiled. She did well, didn't she? Almost had you. You looked weak, Adrian, tired, starting to lose your health. That poisoning plan was so elegant. Adrian lunged forward, grabbing Jonathan by the collar and slamming him into the wall. "What do you want?" Adrian's voice shook with rage. Jonathan didn't flinch, he smirked. "I want what was stolen from me. Power, respect, everything you took." Adrian shoved him harder. "I didn't take anything from you that you didn't give up yourself." Jonathan's eyes narrowed. "Then I'll take something from you." His lips curled into a vicious grin. "I'll take your son." Adrian's blood went ice cold. Before he could react, Jonathan raised a small remote device and tapped a button. A photo flashed on the screen, a live feed. Elena's room. Milo, crying in her arms. Adrian's breath stopped. "How the hell did you?" "I have eyes everywhere," Jonathan whispered. "Nicole installed the cameras, hidden ones throughout your home." Adrian felt sick. Jonathan walked slowly around him, hands clasped behind his back. "Your son, such a bright future, such a precious little legacy. But imagine how the world will react when they hear you died suddenly. Heart attack, maybe." Adrian lunged again, but Jonathan pulled a gun from inside his coat and pointed it straight at his chest. Jonathan taunted. "Don't make me pull the trigger before I finish my story." Adrian froze. Jonathan stepped closer, the gun inches from Adrian's heart. "Nicole was supposed to finish the final dose today. Lovely girl, really, manipulative, smart, but soft." He tilted his head mockingly. "She panicked, ran like a rabbit." Adrian's voice dropped to a growl. "What do you want?" Jonathan tilted the gun slightly. "Your empire." "You'll never run Hawthorne Corporation," Adrian spat. Jonathan smiled. "Oh, I know, but your signatures are already collected, your legal access granted. Nicole handled most of it." Adrian felt his world shatter piece by piece. Nicole hadn't just been trying to kill him. She had been dismantling his life. "You think you're walking away with everything," Adrian whispered with deadly calm. "I know I am," Jonathan said. "Because once you're gone, your assets transfer per the new documents. Milo becomes my ward. Blackridge Estate becomes his home." Adrian's heart stopped. "Over my dead body." Jonathan smirked. "Exactly." At that moment, a faint sound came from upstairs, the creak of a floorboard. Jonathan's eyes flicked upward. "So the maid is still here," he chuckled. "Perfect, I'll take the boy myself." Adrian moved like lightning. He knocked Jonathan's gun hand upward just as Jonathan pulled the trigger. The bullet shot into the ceiling. Adrian slammed his fist into Jonathan's jaw, sending him crashing into a table. Jonathan roared, grabbed the gun again, and fired wildly as Adrian dove behind a marble column. Bang! 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 "Coward," Jonathan shouted. "Come out and die like a man." Adrian crawled toward the staircase, keeping low. He had to get to Milo. He had to protect his son. He grabbed a heavy bronze statue, small but solid enough to break bone, and waited. Jonathan's footsteps drew closer, slow and deliberate. "You can't hide forever, Adrian. I know every corner of this house." Adrian waited until Jonathan stepped beside the column. Then he swung. The statue connected with Jonathan's wrist, sending the gun skidding across the floor. Jonathan howled in pain. Adrian swung again, this time hitting Jonathan's shoulder. Jonathan elbowed him back, and both men stumbled. Jonathan lunged, pushing Adrian to the floor, pinning him by the throat. "You think you can beat me?" Jonathan hissed. "I've waited years for this moment." Adrian struggled, vision blurring, lungs screaming for air. And then, "Let him go." Elena's voice. Jonathan turned. Elena stood at the top of the stairs with Milo hiding behind her, clutching the railing with trembling hands. Jonathan smiled dangerously. "Ah, the loyal maid." Elena gripped the railing tighter. "Do not touch him." Jonathan raised a hand toward Milo. Come here, boy. It's time you learned where you really belong. Milo whimpered and hid behind Elena. Adrian felt fire burst through his veins. He surged upward with everything he had left, slamming Jonathan backward. Both men rolled violently across the floor. Jonathan grabbed a shard of broken glass from the table he'd crashed into earlier. He slashed at Adrian. Adrian dodged barely, and the glass sliced across his arm. Jonathan raised the shard again. But Adrian grabbed Jonathan's wrist midair, twisted hard, and drove his knee into Jonathan's stomach. Jonathan gasped. Adrian ripped the shard from his hand. And without hesitation, without a second thought, he plunged it into Jonathan's shoulder. Jonathan screamed in agony and fell backward, clutching the wound. Adrian stood, chest heaving, blood dripping from his arm. Jonathan lay on the floor, groaning, powerless for the first time. Sirens wailed in the distance. Security had triggered the emergency alarm when gunshots went off. Adrian approached Jonathan slowly. "This ends today." Jonathan spat blood glaring up. "You've won nothing. Nicole will finish what I started." Adrian's eyes were ice. "Nicole isn't your ally anymore. She ran, she'll be caught." Jonathan smirked weakly. "You don't know her the way I do." Adrian tightened his jaw. "I know enough." Police burst through the broken gate and into the mansion. Jonathan was dragged away, screaming threats and curses. Adrian finally turned toward the stairs. "Milo, Elena." Elena rushed down, tears streaming. Milo ran into Adrian's arms, sobbing. "Daddy, I thought you were gone." Adrian hugged him tightly, burying his face in his son's hair. "I'm here. I'm right here, and no one will ever take you from me." Elena stood beside them, shaking but relieved. "You saved us," Adrian said softly to her. "You saved my life. You saved Milo's life. I will never forget that." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "I just did what was right." Paramedics entered, taking Adrian to be patched up. Police officers searched the mansion for Nicole, but she was gone, disappeared into the world, leaving behind betrayal, poison, and destruction. As Adrian sat on the ambulance steps with Milo in his lap, he stared at the mansion that had almost become his tomb. His life wasn't broken. It had been shattered. But he was still alive. Because one maid had screamed in time. Because loyalty, honesty, and courage had survived where love had not. As the sun rose over the Hawthorne mansion, Adrian held his son close and whispered a silent promise. Never again would he trust blindly. Never again would he let darkness hide in his home. And never again would he underestimate the quiet voices that saved him when the loudest ones tried to destroy him. The nightmare was over, but the scars would remain. Forever.